In grammar, a modifier is an optional element in phrase structure or clause structure. A modifier is so called because it is said to modify another element in the structure, on which it is dependent. Typically the modifier can be removed without affecting the grammar of the sentence. For example, in the English sentence "this is a red ball," the adjective red is a modifier, modifying the noun ball. Removal of the modifier would leave "this is a ball," which is grammatically correct and equivalent in structure to the original sentence. Other terms used with a similar meaning are qualifier, attribute, and adjunct. These concepts are often distinguished from complements and arguments, which may also be considered dependent on another element, but are considered an indispensable part of the structure. For example, in "his face became red," the word red might be called a complement or argument of became, rather than a modifier or adjunct, since it cannot be omitted from the sentence. Pre-modifiers and post-modifiers. Modifiers may come either before or after the modified element, depending on the type of modifier and the rules of syntax for the language in question. A modifier placed before the head is called a pre-modifier. One placed after the head is called a post-modifier. For example, in land mines, the word land is a pre-modifier of mines, whereas in the phrase mines in wartime, the phrase in wartime is a post-modifier of mines. A head may have a number of modifiers, and these may include both pre-modifiers and post-modifiers. For example, "that nice tall man from Canada whom you met." In this noun phrase, man is the head, nice and tall are pre-modifiers, and from Canada and whom you met are post-modifiers. Notice that in English, simple adjectives are usually used as pre-modifiers, with occasional exceptions such as galore and the phrases time immemorial and court-martial. Sometimes placement of the adjective after the noun entails a change of meaning, compare a responsible person in the person responsible, or the proper town in the town proper. It is sometimes possible for a modifier to be separated from its head by other words, as in "the man came who you bumped into in the street yesterday," where the relative clause who. Yesterday is separated from the word it modifies by the word came. This type of situation is especially likely in languages with free word order. Types of modifiers. The two principal types of modifiers are adjectives, which modify nouns, and adverbs, which modify other parts of speech, particularly verbs, adjectives and other adverbs, as well as whole phrases or clauses. Another type of modifier in some languages, including English, is the noun adjunct, which is a noun modifying another noun. An example is land in the phrase land mines given above. Examples of the above types of modifiers, in English, are given below. It was a nice house. The swiftly flowing waters carried it away. She's the woman with the hat. I saw the man whom we met yesterday. His desk was in the faculty office. Put it gently in the drawer. He was very gentle. She set it down very gently. Even more people were there. It ran right up the tree. Only the dog was saved. In some cases, noun phrases or quantifiers can act as modifiers. A few more workers are needed. She's 2 inches taller than her sister. Ambiguous and dangling modifiers. Sometimes it is not clear which element of the sentence a modifier is intended to modify. In many cases this is not important, but in some cases it can lead to genuine ambiguity. For example, he painted her sitting on the step. Here the participial phrase sitting on the step may be intended to modify her, or it may be intended to modify the verb phrase painted her or the whole clause he painted her, meaning in effect that it was the painter who was sitting on the step. Sometimes the element which the modifier is intended to modify does not in fact appear in the sentence, or is not in an appropriate position to be associated with that modifier. This is often considered a grammatical or stylistic error. For example, walking along the road, a vulture loomed overhead. Here whoever was walking along the road is not mentioned in the sentence, so the modifier has nothing to modify, except a vulture, which is clearly not the intention. Such a case is called a dangling modifier, or more specifically, in the common case where the modifier is a participial phrase, a dangling participle. See also, intensifier, description, references.